Welcome back to MVM. Today we have a Kickstarter preview. This one is for Guildmaster from Good Games Publishing, and it's a 2 to 4 player game in which each of the players takes on the role of a guildmaster, hiring adventures, trying to complete contracts, and competing with the other guilds at the table.
Yeah, this is definitely a very competitive RPG-y feeling game where you're building up these teams and going out there. As you can see, it has a very small footprint on the table. Now, it's got a lot of components and a lot of really cool things. You're upgrading with these tiles. You're hiring these guys to join your team, going out on these quests. Very cool.
All right, so let's talk about the components. Now, we think this is probably pretty much a done version of the game, or very close to being done, so a lot of the artwork you see here is close to being final. Game is going to take place over 9 rounds. 9 rounds that are signified over here to the left-hand side of the screen. Now, these rounds are going to consist of both full moon and half moon, as well as some blood moon, which all can come into play depending upon the adventurers that you hire. Now, everyone's going to come to the table with 4 novice adventurers, which are either drafted at the start of the game, or you can come with a pre-pack of 4 novice adventurers, which all do very different types of things. The idea is that each of these adventurers are going to have skills, one of 6 different skills on the left-hand side of the actual card itself. The idea is that you want to combine these skills in order to roll dice to complete contracts, or to upgrade your building structures within your guild, or to go out and hire new adventurers that go into your deck that you can use every single round of the game.
Yeah, it's really cool how those come into play across every aspect of the game, up to and including even breaking ties with other players when you're going after certain things in the game.
Also on the main game board, you're going to have the buildings. During each round, depending if you decide to give a building order to your adventurers, you can build new upgrades into your guild. Everyone's going to start with one very particular upgrade. These upgrades, the small upgrades, are double-sided, and it depends on one of the 6 different skill checks. So right here I have the Guile skill check. This Guile skill check allows me to do one of 2 things, and I have to choose one at the start of the game, and they're one for every 6 of them out there. One of them allows me to re-roll 2 dice. I'll re-roll the same die twice. And the other side allows me to change any die value up to a 6. And you're going to be acquiring these through the course of the game. Also, buildings allow you to acquire large upgrades as well.
Yeah, it's really cool how those tiles work too, because they're applied only to that specific skill check. You have to kind of mold not only the people that you're hiring, but the team that you're building with those upgrades.
There's 3 different types of large upgrades. They come in the mess hall, the bar, and the stables, which are also on your guild. These allow you to complete more orders during your particular round, to put more adventures into a particular order, or to collect more income at the end of the round, which fuels your next turn. There's also one other type of upgrade, and those are the prestige upgrades. These are end of the game scoring that you can build. They're way off to the other side of the table there. They cost a lot of different building points in order to do them, but they're just for one player. So there's only one of those in the game for each of the different end of the game scoring that you could possibly acquire at the end. Next on the board, you have the adventurers. There are 4 different types of adventurers. As I said, everyone's going to start with novice adventurers. These are your weakest ones. They don't have the greatest abilities in the world. And then you're going to go up to your adepts, your heroics, and then your legendaries. And the trick here is that you have to send higher graded adventurers to be able to hire the higher graded adventurers that are on the table. So you need adepts in order to hire heroes, and you need heroes in order to hire legendaries, and so forth.
It's pretty cool thematically, because you're not going to go and get a legendary character to join your team if you're a bunch of novices. So as you progress, you're going to be able to get more and more and better characters on your team.
And they're each in 6 different stacks on the board, labeled A through F, and they also have different values that you have to spend in order to hire them. The trick is, depending upon the side of the moon token, how much their value is, or how much they cost in order to hire them.
Yeah, that's just one of the areas where that moon token comes into play too. It's really, really cool. The next part of the board is the contracts. You're going to have 6 different contracts out here. Those are going to be seeded at the beginning of the game depending on player count, and they're going to be replaced as they're accomplished throughout the game. But this is an entirely extra place that you can go to where you're assigning your teams to go out there and try to fulfill those contracts using those skill checks and a number of die to try to roll against that. We're going to get into this in a little bit more, but more than one player can go to these things, and you can cooperate or you can compete to complete them.
These contracts come in 3 different grades as well. They come in commons, heroics, and legendaries, and they become increasingly more difficult the higher up that you go in that scale. Everyone's going to start also with an order board. At the very start of the game, every player is allowed to give 2 orders to their team of adventurers, only with 2 adventurers per stack, according to your mess hall. Across the bottom, you have order 3 and 4. These are only available if you upgrade your stables. So at the start, you don't have the ability to use either one of these. You're also going to have a treasury. Everyone's going to start with $7. Over here, you have your guild upgrade board. This is where you're going to put all the different building structures that you've acquired. The other big thing is you're going to notice this giant player shield, and you may look large to begin with, but the reason is on the back side, you have every single possible icon you could ever want to know, how the turn structure works. Everything is right here, so you never need to reference the rulebook at all for any of the skill checks or anything that you're going to be doing through the course of the game.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that it perfectly fits, at least with this version of the game we have, perfectly fits around your order board. So as you're using that to shield what your plans are for the round, it fits nice and snugly around that board.
Which leads us right into orders. This is possibly the most important thing you need to know from this entire game. Everyone's going to start with 13 cards. These 13 cards reference the 13 different things that you can do on the board. The 6 different adventurer stacks that you can hire from, the 6 different contracts that you can complete, or the building itself. And they're all labeled according to each of those different numbered or numerical areas on the board itself. That's because the very first thing happens in a round is everyone's going to take their shield and they're going to put it right here in front of them. Then players are allowed to do the plot phase. This is where they're going to look through their hand of adventurers that they've been either drafted at the beginning of the game or given. And some of them are going to have plots on them that allow them to use abilities right then. You just simply show it to everybody at the table. And the plot that you're allowed to use depends upon the facing of the moon. So some of them are full moon, some of them are half moon, some of them are a blood moon. Depends on the round or the round that you're in at that given time.
Yeah, that's going to play into also when you recruit your characters. Again, all the characters have those abilities at the bottom of them. So depending on where you want those abilities to trigger or fire off, will play a minor role in who you're going to be collecting.
Now here's the other super important part that you need to know. This is called the order phase. This is where everybody in Secret's going to plan on their board the orders that they wish to give their adventurers to be able to accomplish. And the 3 different types of orders, again, are to build upgrades, to hire more adventurers, or to try to complete contracts. Now, what you're going to be doing here is you're going to go through your hand of cards, and in Secret, behind your shield, you're going to assign people to different areas along with the order cards that you wish them to try to accomplish, along with any amount of money that you wish to contribute for that particular thing. So if I want to hire somebody, I have to put money on that stack that I want to hire from. If I want to complete a contract, you simply have to get the right skills to the right type of contract that you're trying to complete. And if you're trying to build a building, you're trying to gauge how soon you're going to get to that building action before other players, because this is going to increase making your buildings or your building actions more expensive. So you're trying to not only make decisions on what you want your adventurers to do, but the timing structure, because once everybody is done planning their orders, you're going to complete those orders at the same time, because everyone's going to pull the shield off. You're going to look around the table and you're going to complete order 1. Everybody's doing that. And then order 2, everybody's going to do that. And that's the real trick within the game.
Yeah, there's a very specific process that you have to go through here. When you go to order 1, the first thing you look at is building, to see if anyone chose to build. If someone did, or more than one person did, that's going to happen. You're going to do that for each of these sections, A through F on the characters, and 1 through 6 on the contracts. Now there's some interesting things that happen when there's more than one person doing it, especially with the building. Like Jeremy said, you're going to be putting money out when you build. So if I want to have 2 build actions, I'm going to need to put out 5 money at least. I might need to put out more, however, because if someone else has gone there and they've
built before you,
built before me in turn order, they're going to build, and as you build, they might spend $5 and go up there. Now for my 2 build actions, I have to spend $7. Now if I put $5 on there, I'm out of luck and I might just be able to build once. and I'll have to change my mind about what I'm building and build a small upgrade maybe instead of a large one. Things like that. So that's just one example of how the timing really comes into play here.
Again, you're going to fulfill all order 1s, everybody at the table, then order 2s, order 3s, and order 4s. And those order 3s and 4s will open up later within the game once players build the stables in order to do that. Now, if an area is contested, and this is pretty much the same for each of these 3 different regions, the building, the adventures, and the contracts, you're going to do a couple different things depending upon the contested area that you're competing on. It's always looking at the adventures that you have, and depending on either money that you've chosen to use to hire someone or the amount of skills that they have in an area, you're going to contest that area.
Yeah.
So in the building structure, say David and I both picked for our first order to build in that area. So obviously one of us is going to have to pay more money to do so. We're going to look at the skills on our people. And this is where you want to try to put people with similar type of skills in the same order, because you're going to tally up your best. In this case, my highest is a 3 because I didn't pair them. But if I paired my Fang guy here with my Raiden guy, you're going to notice the 3 plus a 1 is going to give me 4 dice. And I simply choose 4 dice, and I'm going to roll them. Compared to his 3 dice on his books, which happens to be logic. Whoever has the highest value is going to be able to take that action first in the building phase. So everyone gets to do something in the building phase, but it's first come, first served. So you could be spending more money than other players.
Yeah, and like I said, if you don't have the money, you might not be doing it.
Yeah.
This comes into play too across the different regions. We'll explain each of these in a moment, but one thing you have to keep in mind is if Jeremy on his first turn went to contract 1, and I did contract 1 in my 3rd order or my 2nd order, he'll have completed potentially contract 1 before I even get a chance. Now, by the time it comes around to me, it will have been filled with a new contract, but I may be ill-prepared to try to accomplish that contract.
So let's talk about when you build. Of course, this is going to give you building icons. There's no kind of resource in the game that you're going to collect. It's simply giving you these little hammers that you see here. The number of building actions that you take equals the number of builds you get to take. Each of those different upgrades have different numbers on them or different icons across the bottom. When you build, you're allowed to build 1 small upgrade plus 1 large upgrade, or 1 small or 1 large, or 1 prestige building. Yeah. When you're done with that, you're going to go over to the adventure stack, and you're going to decide who decided they wish to pay for an adventure. You're going to go A through F, and you're going to look at the amount of money that you bid for that player. This is no skill check. It's just simply whoever bid the most money. So in this case, if I bid for A, it only costs $5. But if David came in and snuck him $8, timing of it is going to go over to your side and not mine.
Exactly. So you can kind of overpay for these guys. So you not only have to fulfill what's on the board, but you got to think, okay, is this the kind of character that my opponents are also going for?
Yeah.
There's a lot of mind games for sure in this game, getting in each other's heads and figuring out what they may be doing and when they may be doing it.
And if there is a tie for the amount of money that we wanted to give to this particular person, again, you're going to do a skill check. You're going to do a roll off to see whoever wins. These aren't replaced until the end of the round, so it's first come, first serve. Finally, we'll do the contracts 1 through 6. Contracts are fulfilled again by the skills that you have. You're going to look at the skill values in one of those 6 different checks compared to whatever skill you're trying to complete. So if I have 4 in Guile and I'm trying to complete 9, this is simply a number. This on your card is how many dice you're going to roll. So I'm going to roll 4 dice, and I have to have a total pit value over 9 in order to complete this particular contract. When you complete a contract, you're getting money, you're getting prestige, which are the victory points, plus some of them give you instant bonuses. Some of them give you boons, which are going to stay on your side of the table and can be expended and used for other skill checks in the future or some special benefit in the future.
Yeah, and some of them, in fact, even have events on them that may have been affecting the game. So you oftentimes want to get those off the board. In fact, oftentimes everyone wants to get some of those events off the board because they have maybe a negative impact on everyone's play, where we have to put money out every round or something like that. So those bonuses and those effects on those cards are very interesting and quite varied across all the cards.
Once you complete a skill, this is the one area that's going to replenish immediately. The person that completed that skill is going to collect that card. It's going to stay on their side of the table in case they get a very particular prestige building. And then they get to replace that with any one of the common, heroic, or legendary cards off the top of the deck. Again, this is random, so if you come there and both people go to say 1, I complete it for you before you with my arcane ability, and it comes in with a different ability for you, you could be screwed out of trying to complete that particular contract.
Absolutely. Now, what happens when we're both at the same location at the same time?
Yeah.
Then we're going to throw down and see who can do this, or we're going to cooperate
Yeah.
and try to do it together.
Yeah, so very interesting. There is a contract token here, and it has a cooperative side and a non-cooperative side. Everybody that's trying to cooperate for this, now this isn't done by a skill check. If people go there at the same time, during the same order, and during the same phase, they either choose as a group, hey David, you know what, we both can complete this, let's go ahead and just complete it and see what happens, right? They get to both get the fame according to that. And they can split the card and split the money any way that they so wish. What they're going to do is they're going to take their tokens and they're going to say what they want to try to do, and then they're going to reveal their tokens at the same time. This is interesting. If both players cooperate, guess what? You both cooperate, you both get the benefit. You still have to roll for the skill to see if you complete it.
Right.
Also, if it's the same skill, you can combine your skill checks, which is fantastic. If one player says, no, I'm going to lie, they get to try to complete that before the other player, so they can snake that out from underneath of them to do that. If both players disagreed, then they both have to once again complete. And this gets very interesting as more people compete for the very same thing.
Yeah, because if there's, say, 3 people who are doing this, and everyone says, let's all cooperate, and 2 of the people dissent, and 1 of the person chooses to cooperate, instead of the people who aren't cooperating, it's the person who stood by their word who gets to try to attempt it first. So there's a lot of mind games in this thing, and this will happen a few times throughout the game. It happened more often than we expected it to, and it's a lot of fun when it does.
There's one more thing that could possibly happen. If on your turn you decide you don't want to build, or you didn't want to hire somebody, or you weren't able to complete this, or didn't want to try to complete the skill because a bad one flipped up in front of you, you can choose to wander. You're simply going to roll all the skill on the particular skill check that you wish, and gain victory points and money according to how high you rolled for that. It's kind of like a get out of jail free type of thing that you get to do.
Yeah, it gives you a little sort of consolation prize.
Yeah.
Alternatively, when you wander, you can also complete your private contract. Everyone's going to get one of these at the beginning of the game, and this is something you can keep to yourself, and instead of rolling those dice like Jeremy just described, you can basically attempt this contract and fulfill it just like you would a contract on the board.
This is a game that obviously there's a lot of stuff going on in it, but it scales throughout the game. So obviously the more adventures, the better adventures you get, the more plots, phases you get to take with them, the more orders you're going to be able to take, which means the more conflict you could be running into with other players. The contracts get increasingly more difficult as you go through the game. And then you're trying to get victory points from a variety of different ways. Victory points at the end of the game are obviously anything that you've scored through the course of the game, plus any of the prestige end of the game stuff that you could possibly score. You also get money for any victory points for any money that you have left over.
Yeah, and it should be noted, we didn't mention this specifically, but almost everything you do in this game gets you victory points. The contracts do. When you hire a person, there's victory points on those cards. There are victory points on all of the upgrades and things that you can build. So you're going to be doing those things not only to enhance your game, but also just to gather more and more points.
A lot of stuff going on this. This is Guildmaster from Good Games Publishing. It is a 2 to 4 player game. It takes place in about 90 minutes to 2 hours, roughly. If you guys have any questions about the game, make them in the comments below. Subscribe to us, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and everything else that we do. And we will catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.